The forgotten strength of humanity. The Galactic Council had long since dismissed humanity as a minor player in the vast expanse of the galaxy. Once upon a time, they had learned the hard way not to underestimate Earth's resilience and tactical brilliance. Decades ago, the Council made the grave mistake of overstepping into human territory, believing they were dealing with a primitive species barely capable of space travel. What they encountered instead was a fierce and calculated resistance, one that shattered their fleets and scarred their pride. Back then, humanity's unyielding spirit had shocked the galaxy. They had proven themselves resourceful, adaptable, and willing to fight to the last person. The Galactic Council, stung and humiliated, withdrew. For years, they regarded Earth with a cautious respect, recognizing the sleeping giant they had almost awoken. But time has a way of dulling even the sharpest memories. Over the decades, as newer generations of galactic leaders came to power, the stories of Earth's defiance began to fade. What was once regarded as a formidable force became myth, a tale exaggerated by those who had experienced the heat of battle firsthand. The Council, now dealing with more immediate threats across the stars, pushed humanity to the back of their minds. The new voices in the Council began to whisper that perhaps the humans weren't as strong as the legends claimed. Earth had been quiet for years, showing no signs of expansion or aggression. To these younger, ambitious leaders, this was a clear indication that humanity had grown complacent, perhaps even weak. They saw no reason to fear Earth any longer. Slowly, the Council's perception shifted, and with it, their respect for humanity eroded. Talk of probing Earth's defenses began to surface in the Council's chambers. The newer leaders saw an opportunity to reclaim territories near human space, regions they felt had been unjustly surrendered in the past. Older members, those who remembered the previous conflict, voiced their concerns. But their warnings were quickly silenced by the more eager voices, those convinced that humanity's time had passed. The decision was made. A modest fleet would be sent to the outer fringes of human territory, not an invasion, but a test. The Council believed that Earth would offer little resistance, but the humans would cower in the face of the galaxy's most powerful alliance. The fleet was dispatched, confident that this would be a swift and effortless show of dominance. As their ships entered human space, scanning for any signs of activity, they found nothing. Empty sectors, abandoned systems, and no signs of human defenses. To the Council, it was confirmation that they had been right all along. Humanity, once a threat, had been reduced to a shadow of its former self. But they were wrong, very wrong. Part 2. The Sleeping Giant Awakens. Unbeknownst to the Council, humanity had never grown complacent. While Earth's surface remained peaceful and quiet, a secret force had been quietly preparing in the depths of space. A quiet galaxy forgets. Over time, the tales of humanity's unexpected and brutal resistance were gradually reduced to little more than myths. The newer members of the Galactic Council, having faced no direct threat from Earth for decades, grew complacent. They saw no reason to believe that the humans, now seemingly content within their small section of the galaxy, were anything more than a minor species, one whose earlier aggression had been nothing but a fleeting anomaly. There were voices of caution within the Council, the older members who still remembered the sting of their earlier defeat. They warned that humanity's quiet retreat into its own borders might not signify weakness. But those warnings were largely ignored. The younger generations of leaders pointed to Earth's lack of expansion as evidence of their supposed docility. Earth had remained quiet, focusing inward, showing no signs of outward aggression or ambition. They hadn't ventured beyond their solar systems in years. Surely, these council members reasoned, the humans had grown soft. Perhaps the stories passed down by their elders were exaggerated, legends of a battle that humanity had barely survived and would be too wise to attempt again. With no recent conflict to keep the memory of their strength fresh, the Council began to believe that Earth was no longer a threat. Humanity, they concluded, was now a backwater race, one content to live in its quiet corner of the galaxy. The vastness of the galaxy and the Council's other concerns helped solidify this new perception. Newer threats had emerged, distant worlds were more pressing to control, and Earth, once a symbol of surprise defiance, seemed irrelevant. Their military planners scoffed at the idea of fearing such a small, seemingly isolated race. Little did they know, however, that their overconfidence would soon cost them dearly. As they focused on more immediate concerns, they began to consider Earth a soft target once more. They had forgotten the stinging lessons learned so long ago, and with the passage of time came an eagerness to expand their borders again. This time, they wouldn't make the mistake of sending a massive force. They didn't believe it was necessary. A small fleet, they reasoned, would be more than enough to probe Earth's defenses, to reassert control of the few sectors the humans had dared claim. It was, after all, just a demonstration, a reminder to the galaxy that the Council still held dominance. In quiet council chambers, far from Earth's distant star, the decision was made. A small, elite fleet was to be dispatched to human space. Their mission was simple: assess Earth's defenses, push their borders back if possible, and return control of the territory to the Council. The assumption was that the humans wouldn't dare resist. They would fall in line, as all the smaller species eventually did. The preparations were made swiftly and quietly. The Council's military advisors discussed tactics, but none of them believed the mission would be difficult. In fact, many of them saw it as a formality. They were preparing to bully a species they no longer considered a threat, one that had stayed silent for so long that they were practically invisible in the broader galactic scheme. But the humans had not been idle. In the decades since their last confrontation with the Galactic Council, Earth had learned an invaluable lesson. While peace was preferable, they could not afford to be complacent. Their quiet inaction was not a sign of weakness, but rather of careful preparation. They had watched the Council from the shadows, biding their time, improving their technology, and learning from the galaxy around them. They had honed their defenses, invested in stealth and strategy, and trained a new generation of warriors who had been raised on the stories of their ancestors' defiance and the near-catastrophic battle for survival. And so, while the Galactic Council believed Earth was quiet and isolated, in reality, humanity had been preparing for the day when the Council would come knocking again. They knew the galaxy was vast, and they knew their place within it was tenuous. But they had no intention of allowing the Council to erase them from the map. Unseen by the rest of the galaxy, Earth's secret preparations were vast. Their ships were faster, their weapons more advanced, and their soldiers, now trained from birth, were deadlier than ever before. They had watched and learned from every galactic conflict, integrating advanced alien technologies into their own. But most importantly, they had refined their most dangerous weapon: patience. In deep space, far beyond the reach of the Galactic Council's eyes, a hidden fleet of human ships had been quietly building up strength. For decades, it had grown in both size and power, designed to remain undetected until the moment was right. This fleet had no need for grandeur or display. It was built for precision, for strategic superiority, and for one purpose: to strike when least expected. Every ship in this secret fleet was equipped with state-of-the-art cloaking technology, rendering them nearly invisible to the galaxy's most advanced scanners. Their weapons were optimized for devastating impact with minimal energy signatures, allowing them to unleash hell without revealing their position. And their crews were the best Earth had to offer: warriors, engineers, and tacticians who had trained for this moment their entire lives. The Galactic Council, so sure of their dominance, had no idea what they were about to encounter. They had misread humanity's silence as submission, a fatal error that would haunt them for generations to come. As the Council's fleet crossed the invisible border into human territory, they encountered nothing. Empty space stretched before them, no defenses in sight. This only further emboldened them. Surely, they thought, the humans were not even aware of their approach. But the humans were watching. Hidden in the darkness, their fleet lay in wait, like a predator stalking its prey. The Council's ships pushed further in, growing more confident with each passing moment. They scanned the surrounding systems, finding no resistance, no military installations, nothing that suggested Earth was prepared for an invasion. It was as if humanity had simply disappeared. Convinced that the humans had indeed grown weak, the Council's leaders began to speak of easy victories. They imagined a swift reclamation of the territory, perhaps even subjugating Earth once and for all. They were so sure of their dominance, so utterly convinced of humanity's insignificance, that they failed to see the trap that had been laid for them. And then, without warning, the silence of space was shattered. The first volley from Earth's hidden fleet struck with the force of a supernova. Railguns, firing silently from ships that appeared from nowhere, ripped through the Council's vessels like tissue paper. Energy torpedoes bent space itself to seek out their targets, detonating with deadly precision, and lasers, cutting through the Council's heavy armor with surgical accuracy, left nothing but wreckage in their wake. In an instant, the Council's fleet was thrown into chaos. Ships exploded, shields faltered, and their once confident leaders found themselves scrambling for survival. They had walked straight into the jaws of a beast they had fought long since tamed, and now they were paying the price. Humanity, patient and prepared, had struck with a vengeance. They had waited decades for this moment, and now, as the Council's fleet burned in the cold darkness of space, they reminded the galaxy why Earth should never be underestimated. Humanity strikes back. The darkness of space was suddenly alight with fire as the hidden human fleet unleashed its fury. The Galactic Council's ships, once cruising confidently through what they believed to be undefended territory, were now reduced to glowing debris, the once grand fleet torn apart by Earth's hidden strength. What had started as a simple demonstration of dominance had transformed into a catastrophic battle for survival, and the Council was unprepared. The human fleet, having waited in perfect silence, now moved with deadly precision. Their ships, sleek and nearly invisible, darted between the Council vessels like shadows, striking and then vanishing before their targets could react. Every shot was calculated, every maneuver practiced, every tactic perfected over decades of preparation. This was not a battle, it was a slaughter. Inside the command ship of the human fleet, Admiral Kiera Morgan watched the chaos unfold with cold, calculating eyes. She had spent her entire life preparing for this moment. She had been raised on the stories of humanity's near defeat, on the lessons passed down from the veterans of the last war with the Council. Now, as her fleet cut through the invaders like a scalpel through flesh, she felt a grim satisfaction. "They underestimated us again," she muttered, watching as another Council cruiser erupted in a silent explosion on her tactical display. "They always do." Her second-in-command, Captain Rhodes, nodded, his face illuminated by the soft glow of the holographic screens. "They thought we had forgotten, that we had grown weak, but we've only been waiting." Morgan turned to face the crew of her flagship, her voice steady and calm despite the violence unfolding outside. "The Council believed they could push us back into the shadows. They thought we were a forgotten species. Let's remind them why they should have left us alone." Across the human fleet, the command was relayed, "No mercy." The Council fleet had invaded Earth's space, and there would be no retreat. This was not simply a battle for territory, it was a message to the entire galaxy. Humanity was not a passive, backwater race to be toyed with. They were warriors, strategists, survivors, and they were about to teach the Council a lesson they would never forget. The Council, however, was still wreathing from the shock of the ambush. Their commanders, having assumed the humans would crumble at the first sign of aggression, now found themselves scrambling to respond. Communications were chaotic, orders conflicting, as they tried to regroup. But it was too late. The human ships were everywhere, attacking from every angle, their cloaked vessels moving with an agility that the lumbering Council battleships couldn't match. In the middle of the battle, a massive Council dreadnought tried to bring its main cannons to bear on a group of human frigates. The dreadnought was a symbol of the Council's power, huge, heavily armored, and bristling with weapons. But it was slow, built for intimidation rather than combat agility. As its cannons charged, the human ships split apart, darting in opposite directions and leaving the dreadnought's firepower aimed at empty space. Before the dreadnought could realign, a squadron of human bombers swept in from below, their torpedoes locking onto the massive ship's vulnerable underbelly. In seconds, the dreadnought's shields were overwhelmed, and a series of explosions ripped through its hull. The ship, which had once represented the pride of the Galactic Council's fleet, broke apart in a fireball of wreckage, its pieces scattering across the battlefield. On board the human flagship, Admiral Morgan watched the destruction with satisfaction. The plan had worked flawlessly so far. Their strategy, hit hard, hit fast, and disappear, had thrown the Council into complete disarray. They were not prepared for the humans' guerrilla tactics, nor for the advanced weaponry Earth had been developing in secret for years. But Morgan knew this battle wasn't just about winning, it was about sending a message. "Keep the pressure on," she ordered, her voice sharp and commanding. "I want their entire fleet disabled. No survivors." Captain Rhodes hesitated for a moment. "Admiral, if we destroy them all, the Council will retaliate in force." Morgan's gaze was icy. "Let them. We've been preparing for their return since the last war. We'll show them that humanity isn't just a species they can push around. We're a force to be reckoned with. They'll think twice before crossing us again." The Council's fleet was now in full retreat, but the humans gave them no quarter. Ship after ship fell to the relentless assault, their once formidable armada reduced to wreckage scattered across the stars. The Council's commanders, panicked and desperate, sent out distress signals, calling for reinforcements, but they knew it would be too late. They had ventured too far, too deep into human territory, and now they were paying the price. In the heart of the chaos, one of the Council's surviving captains, an experienced veteran named Commander Rethel, watched in horror as his comrades were systematically wiped out. He had fought in countless battles before, but never had he seen such precise and devastating tactics. The humans were relentless, striking with a precision that was almost mechanical, yet their ferocity was undeniable. They fought like a species that had been waiting for this moment, biding their time, growing stronger with each passing year. "They were prepared for us," Rethel muttered, his voice filled with disbelief. "How could we have been so blind?" His second-in-command, a younger officer who had been confident of an easy victory, now stood pale and silent. "Commander, what do we do?" Rethel clenched his fists. There was nothing they could do. The humans had outmaneuvered them at every turn. Retreat was the only option, but even that seemed futile now. Their ships were being torn apart, one by one. "Get the remaining ships out of here," Rethel ordered grimly. "We need to regroup. This battle is lost." As the Council ships tried to retreat, the human fleet continued its assault, picking off the stragglers with ruthless efficiency. The few ships that managed to escape the slaughter limped away, their hulls scarred, their weapons systems disabled. They would carry the story of this defeat back to the Galactic Council, but they would do so as a broken, humiliated force. Inside the human command ship, Admiral Morgan stood tall, her eyes fixed on the tactical display as the last of the Council ships fled into the void. Her fleet had done the impossible. They had not only repelled the invaders, but had utterly crushed them. "Send a message to Earth," she said, her voice steady and cold. "Let them know the Council's fleet has been destroyed. We're sending a clear signal to the galaxy today. Humanity will not be underestimated again." As the human fleet regrouped, their ships moving silently through the wreckage of the Council's once proud armada, the message began to spread. Throughout human space, the victory was broadcast. Proof that Earth had not only survived, but had thrived in the shadows. They had prepared for this moment, and now the galaxy would know. On distant worlds, the news of humanity's stunning victory would soon reach the ears of those who had doubted them. The Galactic Council, so used to being the dominant force in the galaxy, would have to reckon with a new reality. Humanity was not a minor species to be brushed aside. They were a force to be feared. And as Admiral Morgan's fleet began to move back into their hidden positions, ready for the next inevitable challenge, one thing was clear: Earth's quiet years were over. The galaxy had forgotten their power, but now they had been reminded in the most brutal way possible. Humanity was back, and this time they would not be ignored. The Council reacts. In the aftermath of the brutal skirmish, the Galactic Council convened in an emergency session. The once stalwart assembly of species, proud and self-assured, was now enveloped in a cloud of unease and disbelief. The news of the massacre had swept through the council chambers like wildfire, and every representative felt the weight of their own hubris pressing down upon them. Councillor Thran, a hulking figure from the planet Zareth, was the first to speak. "This cannot be. The humans should have been crushed. They were nothing but a footnote in our history." Across the vast chamber, whispers rippled among the gathered delegates. Many shared Thran's sentiment, but others were more cautious, recalling the lessons of the past. Councillor Selin, a slender being with shimmering skin that shifted colors, interjected, "We underestimated them before, Thran. We let our arrogance cloud our judgment. If we rush into a response, we could be inviting further disaster." Thran's brow furrowed. "We must act decisively. Show them that their victory was a fluke. We have the might of the Alliance behind us. We cannot let a single defeat define us." "But what if it wasn't a fluke?" Selin pressed, her voice steady. "What if they have truly evolved into a force we can no longer ignore? Their tactical innovations have outmatched our fleet. We must reconsider our strategy." The chamber erupted into a cacophony of voices, each councillor pushing their own agenda. Some called for immediate retribution, while others advocated for a more cautious approach. Among them, a handful of elder councillors, those who had witnessed humanity's last stand decades prior, shared uneasy glances. They had seen this pride before, and they knew how quickly it could unravel. In a darkened corner of the chamber, Councillor Fenra, a sharp-eyed reptilian with a keen mind for strategy, raised a hand to silence the crowd. "If I may, we should consider forming an alliance of our own. Let's call upon the species who have been harmed by humanity's expansion in the past. Together, we could mount a coalition strong enough to crush this rebellion once and for all." The idea sparked interest, and a few of the younger councillors nodded enthusiastically. They began to murmur amongst themselves, envisioning a grand alliance that could not only challenge humanity, but also assert the Council's dominance across the galaxy. But the elder councillors, skeptical of this newfound enthusiasm, remained silent. They were cautious, aware that underestimating the humans could lead to catastrophic consequences. The stories of Earth's last stand echoed in their minds, a fierce resistance that had sent them reeling back from the brink. Meanwhile, in the depths of the human command ship, Admiral Kiera Morgan received the reports of the Council's disarray. The victory had given her fleet a newfound confidence, and the human leadership now convened to discuss their next steps. "Admiral, we've intercepted Council communications," a tactical officer reported, eyes wide with excitement. "They're in chaos. There's talk of forming alliances to retaliate against us." Morgan leaned forward, her interest piqued. "Alliances? They truly are panicking. Let them gather their forces. It will only give us more time to prepare. We must show them that they will never regain the upper hand." The room buzzed with anticipation as Morgan laid out her plans. "We need to reinforce our defenses, establish hidden bases throughout the sectors they attempted to invade. We must be ready for their counterattack, but also prepared to strike again if they show weakness." Her officers nodded, absorbing her words. They understood the stakes. This was not merely about victory, it was about survival. If the Council formed a coalition, they would be facing not just one enemy, but an entire alliance of powerful species. Over the next few days, as tensions rose and both sides prepared for the inevitable clash, the galaxy watched with bated breath. Rumors spread across planets, fueling speculation about humanity's future and the Council's ability to respond. Some viewed the humans as the underdogs, fighting for their right to exist, while others viewed them as a rising threat, a potential conqueror. As the Council's representatives met with their counterparts from other species, they painted a vivid picture of the threat humanity posed. They recounted tales of Earth's past resistance, twisting the narrative to incite fear and rally support. The notion that humans had grown complacent and weak was quickly replaced with the understanding that they were, indeed, a fierce and innovative race. The representatives from the planet Ceron, known for their advanced technology and keen interest in cosmic expansion, were particularly intrigued. They had long-eyed human territories with ambition. If we ally ourselves with the Council, we could gain access to their technological advancements, one of their leaders proposed. We could bolster our fleets and expand into human space. As the Council listened, it became clear that old rivalries and grudges were quickly forgotten in the face of a common enemy. The coalition was taking shape, and with it, the promise of renewed conflict. Plans were drawn, fleets assembled, and strategies were crafted. Back on Earth, Admiral Morgan's team was hard at work. They had begun fortifying their hidden bases, implementing advanced defensive systems to safeguard against the incoming threat. "We've detected unusual movements from the Council," one of the officers reported. "It appears they are rallying their allies. They plan to strike back soon." Morgan's expression darkened. "Then we need to be ready. We cannot let them catch us off guard again. Prepare the fleet for full readiness. We will show them that they underestimated us not just once, but twice." Days turned into weeks, and the tension in the galaxy became palpable. On countless planets, species gathered to discuss their roles in the impending coalition. Each meeting further entrenched their determination to reclaim dominance over the humans who had dared to defy the Galactic Council. Finally, the day came when the Council's coalition, now boasting the might of several powerful species, set course for human space. Their ships, an armada of varying shapes and sizes, glimmered in the starlight as they left their home systems. They were determined to prove that humanity was a threat that could, and must, be eradicated. As they crossed the threshold into human territory, they found a silence that was almost eerie. But they pressed on, believing that fear had driven the humans into hiding. What they did not realize was that the quiet was a sign of the careful preparations underway. Morgan stood on the bridge of her flagship, the heart of her fleet, her eyes scanning the view screen as the enemy armada advanced. She felt the adrenaline coursing through her veins. This was the moment they had been preparing for, and she was determined to lead her people to victory once again. "All ships, prepare for engagement," she commanded, her voice steady and firm. "We are not just defending our home, we are fighting for our existence. Show them that humanity will not be cowed." The crew roared their approval, the sound echoing through the ship as they prepared for battle. Every heart was filled with a mix of fear and resolve. They had faced this moment before, and they knew what was at stake. As the two fleets approached each other, the tension became unbearable. The vast expanse of space lay between them, charged with anticipation. Then, as if orchestrated by fate, the silence shattered with the thunderous clash of warfare. The human fleet erupted from their hidden positions, launching a surprise attack that caught the Council's coalition off guard. Bright beams of energy and streaks of torpedoes lit up the darkness, a dazzling display of humanity's fury and determination. The battle had begun, and neither side would back down. The clash of titans. The space around the human fleet erupted into a vibrant tapestry of light and chaos as the battle commenced. Admiral Kiera Morgan stood at the helm, eyes focused and unwavering, as the enemy ships, a sprawling coalition of formidable species, engaged her forces. The view screen displayed a kaleidoscope of energy beams, torpedoes, and swirling debris, a testament to the fierce clash that was unfolding. "Target their command ships first," Morgan commanded, her voice cutting through the din of the bridge. Her crew moved swiftly, hands flying over control panels, calculating trajectories, and locking onto targets. The time for preparation was over. It was now or never. The first volley of plasma shots surged toward a large Zareth cruiser, its imposing structure designed for intimidation. But it was no match for the precision and agility of humanity's secret fleet. The shots struck true, tearing through the cruiser's shields and igniting explosions that lit up the cold void of space. "Direct hit," shouted a tactical officer, a grin spreading across his face. But Morgan remained focused, knowing that the battle was far from won. The Council's forces, though momentarily caught off guard, quickly rallied. Their ships began to maneuver, forming a tighter formation to counter the unexpected assault. Dread filled the air as more enemy vessels rallied to their command ships, reinforcing their defenses. As the battle raged on, Morgan's mind raced. She knew they couldn't rely solely on brute force. They had to exploit the weaknesses of the coalition and outsmart their opponents. "Initiate the tactical diversion. We need to draw them away from their support ships," she instructed, tapping into the advanced AI systems that had been trained to predict enemy movements. In response, a small contingent of her ships broke formation, darting toward the enemy lines. As they did, they unleashed a barrage of decoys, glowing holographic projections designed to mimic their ships. The coalition ships hesitated, momentarily confused by the sudden shift in targets. "Now," Morgan shouted, and her fleet surged forward, capitalizing on the confusion. They broke through the enemy lines, striking at vulnerable ships on the periphery, drawing attention away from their main forces. Meanwhile, across the battlefield, Councillor Thran's heart pounded in his chest as he watched the chaos unfold. "Regroup our forces. We cannot allow them to breach our lines," he bellowed, his voice laced with frustration. He felt the shame of underestimating humanity, the fear of facing an adversary that had become all too capable. As the Council scrambled to regain control, Admiral Morgan's strategy began to take shape. The human ships weaved through the battlefield, each pilot expertly navigating the tumultuous environment, dodging enemy fire, and returning volleys with surgical precision. They were fighting not just for survival, but to prove that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. On the outskirts of the battle, a small unit led by Captain Rhea Tran received orders from Morgan. "We need to take out that cruiser. It's the command center for the coalition," she said, determination in her voice. Tran had earned her place among the elite commanders, a reputation built on ingenuity and fearlessness. Her squadron raced toward the enemy cruiser, utilizing the cover of a nearby asteroid field to mask their approach. The flickering lights of battle illuminated their faces, a mix of excitement and fear. "Prepare the torpedoes," Tran ordered, her heart racing as they closed in on the cruiser. "On my mark, 3, 2, 1, now." The torpedoes launched in a perfectly synchronized strike, streaking toward their target. Just as they reached the cruiser's shields, an alarm blared. The crew had detected the incoming threat, and the cruiser's weapons activated. But it was too late. The torpedoes hit their mark, overwhelming the cruiser's defenses and igniting a catastrophic explosion. The shockwave rippled through space, and Tran felt a rush of triumph. "That's one down," she cheered, adrenaline pumping through her veins. But they had to keep moving. The battle was far from over. Back in the heart of the conflict, Morgan's flagship was under fire. Multiple energy blasts struck the hull, rattling the ship and sending sparks flying. "Status report," she yelled, gripping her console tightly. "Shields are holding, but they're weakening. We need to adjust power from the aft to the forward shields," a technician shouted, sweat beading on his forehead. "Do it, and prepare for evasive maneuvers," Morgan commanded. She understood that their agility was their greatest asset. They couldn't afford to stand still against such overwhelming numbers. As her ship maneuvered gracefully through the battlefield, Morgan spotted the telltale signs of an impending coalition strike, a concentrated energy buildup in a cluster of enemy vessels. "They're planning a counterattack. We need to scatter their focus," she said, formulating a plan. "Launch the drone swarm," she ordered. The drones, tiny but equipped with sophisticated weaponry and stealth technology, zipped out into the fray, weaving through enemy lines. Their unpredictable paths created chaos, forcing the coalition to split their attention. The drones unleashed a hail of small energy bursts, drawing fire and diverting focus from Morgan's main fleet. This allowed the human forces to regroup and strike back with renewed vigor. As the battle raged, it became evident that humanity was not merely fighting to defend its territory, they were fighting for their very identity. The stories of their past, a history filled with resilience, innovation, and an indomitable spirit, fueled their determination. In the depths of space, victory hung in the balance. The coalition, though powerful, was becoming increasingly disorganized, and Morgan saw an opportunity to press the advantage. "All ships, prepare for the final assault," she commanded. "We're going to make them regret underestimating us." With renewed purpose, the human fleet surged forward, breaking through the remnants of the coalition's defenses. The tide of battle shifted dramatically as the coalition ships began to falter, their coordination breaking down under the pressure of the relentless human assault. But as victory seemed within reach, a sudden surge of energy crackled through the void. A massive ship emerged from the depths of space, a previously hidden flagship of the coalition, larger than anything the humans had faced. Its sleek, menacing design exuded power, and its weapons charged ominously. "Admiral, new ship detected," an officer shouted, panic in his voice. It's a dreadnought." Morgan's heart sank as she realized the gravity of the situation. The dreadnought's weapon systems powered up, targeting her fleet. "Fall back. Regroup," she yelled, her mind racing. The battle was far from over, and the stakes had just been raised to an unimaginable level. The dreadnought unleashed its fury, energy beams, cutting through the void, tearing apart ships with ruthless efficiency. The remnants of the coalition rallied around their new flagship, finding renewed courage in its presence. "Deploy all remaining drones and prepare the fleet for evasive maneuvers," Morgan ordered, knowing that they had to think quickly. She couldn't afford to lose any more ships to the dreadnought's overwhelming firepower. As the human fleet scattered, dodging incoming fire, Morgan focused on the task at hand. This was the moment that would define them, a pivotal point in the fight for their future. She understood that this wasn't just about winning, it was about proving their worth, showing the galaxy that humanity would not be easily subdued. "Prepare the energy torpedoes for a concentrated strike," she instructed, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "We'll aim for their power core. If we can disable that dreadnought, we might still turn the tide." With her orders relayed, the crew moved with precision, preparing the weapon systems for the decisive blow. The energy levels surged as the torpedoes charged, the air filled with a tense anticipation. "Lock on, now," Morgan shouted, her heart pounding in her chest. The torpedoes launched in unison, streaking toward the dreadnought like comets of vengeance. The coalition's flagship, caught off guard, attempted to shift its defenses, but it was too late. The torpedoes struck true, penetrating its shields and impacting the power core. The resulting explosion illuminated the battlefield, a brilliant flash that briefly blinded all who witnessed it. Cheers erupted from the human fleet as the dreadnought was engulfed in flames, its destruction sending shockwaves through the coalition's morale. Morgan seized the moment, rallying her fleet for one final push. "Now, press the attack. We cannot let them regroup," she roared, leading the charge into the fray. As the remnants of the coalition scrambled to regroup, the human fleet pressed forward, striking at their vulnerabilities. The tide had turned, and victory was within reach. Humanity was no longer the underdog. They were a force of nature, and the Galactic Council would remember this day. In the heart of the battle, surrounded by the chaos of war, Morgan felt a surge of hope. This was more than a fight for survival. It was a declaration of existence. The galaxy would witness humanity's strength and resilience once again.